party people in the place to be. What's going on? It's me. We're going back to WhatCulture Wrestling. Probably Adam over at WhatCulture Wrestling. Yes, because it's Adam's Pipebomb number 2. This time he's discussing TV-PG versus TV-14. We're going to see what he has to say about that touchy subject starting right now.
Hello, I'm Adam from WhatCulture.com.
Hey, Adam.
And this is the Pipebomb. WWE TV is in big trouble. Ratings are the lowest they've been since the Phineas Godwin years of the mid-90s. Raw is, quite simply, boring, which is bad news for something called sports entertainment. It's duller to sit through than a physical theatre adaptation of Michael Cole's autobiography, and I can honestly say I wouldn't be watching it if it wasn't my job. Whenever things get bad, however, the old adage comes up, that's PG wrestling for you. When will WWE return to TV-14? Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, 1, hashtag Adam for WWE Creative. Let's get that trending. But hating on TV-PG... it's like hating on your mum. It's pointless, she's not going to change, and it's how she makes her money. In 2008, to coincide with the first of Linda McMahon's Senate campaigns, didn't they go well, WWE finally hung up its hockey mask and machete and became family-friendly broadcasting. The Great American Bash 2008 was the last TV-14 pay-per-view, and from that point
After
on,
a long
blood was gone,
kind
swearing
of
was gone,
downward
content
slope.
was produced more to focus on the whole family rather than men aged 14 to 30. Now, whenever something childish is puked onto our screens like Hornswoggle the crocodile fighting El Torito the bull, everyone types typical PG BS, bring back TV-14, Vince, hashtag Adam for WWE Creative. Hundreds upon hundreds of threads, rumor articles, petitions, legions of internet fans baying for blood and hoping for a miracle. But that's the thing, two little people dressed as animals fighting isn't shit because it's geared at children, it's shit because it's shit. Now, this isn't to argue that watching current PG-era Raw doesn't feel like a second job. It's soulless corporate routine. Raw begins, 20-minute promo, Michael Cole fake smile, match ends via DQ, JBL says, uh-oh, advert for Sonic Chicken, Michael Cole's fake laugh, John Cena's open challenge, which is admittedly pretty good, Michael Cole's dead eyes, Divas Revolution, Michael Cole looking straight down the lens and wondering what happened to the little boy from Syracuse, 6-man tag match, the end. There's a factory line deadness to everything, a crushing lack of spark or exuberance, but that's got almost nothing to do with it being PG, because everything about PG era wrestling is better. It's safer, more physically impressive than ever before, mostly because of these guys. But why are things so bad? There are myriad reasons why WWE television is the worst it's been in decades, and each of them probably deserves its own pipe bomb. But in brief, off the top of my head, the 3-hour Raw, terribly scripted promos, shallow short-term schizophrenic booking, the paper-thin main event roster, overproduced and underdisciplined commentary, the way they treat women, a woeful obsession with celebrity culture, lack of investment in younger stars,
that's been there forever.
The partridge in a pear tree. A lot of those problems involve the product being cheesy, predictable, and flavorless, but that has nothing to do with being PG. You guys have seen a Pixar movie, right? If WWE went back to TV-14 tomorrow, sure, the initial rush of blood and swearing would be exciting, but unless these problems are fixed, it'll be boring again in half a year, probably less. Right now, the occasional sight of hard-way blood or the odd bitch or ass swear word have infinitely more impact than they did a decade ago. Return to TV-14 and all that'll happen is those things become commonplace. The rating isn't liberating. Blood isn't the same as imagination. Now, I get it, the past was exciting. The Attitude Era was compelling. Car crash television is compelling, but it's not good for us and it's not good for the sport. The worst thing that the TV-14 era ever did was condition fans to expect blood every single month. Right now, because of that expectation, because of casual fans regarding bloodless wrestling as vanilla, the WWE spend more time chasing ghosts of their past than trying to maximize their new potential. Remember cage matches? Last man standing matches? Hell in a Cell? No holds barred? I Quit matches? Remember these great things, say WWE? Oh, are any of them as good as they were 10 years ago, we ask? Hey, you remember The Rock, right? Says WWE. Despite implementing policies to make sure their content is rated PG, WWE refuse, out of fear, to let go of some of the things from the past that just don't gel with a family-friendly psychology. The concept of family-friendly violence is always going to be weird and unnatural, but what cripples the perception of PG is this inability for the WWE to move beyond gimmicks that worked in the past but don't work today. Just going to leave these pictures of Kane in the Big Show here for no reason. And this is why the TV-14 argument keeps persisting. It's the
I
big
think it's the
irony.
way
By
that you
living in
think.
fear that their casual audience is getting bored, WWE keeps throwing boring versions of things we used to love at us. 2 Hell in a Cell matches in one night is boring. Vicious match stipulations without
Especially
vicious
when they
action
change the
is
way the
boring.
cell
And
match
hey,
is
if you
done.
guys are PG, that's fine, but you have to be brave and change the style of wrestling you market, which families would find new, exciting, and more palatable, like pure endurance, cruiserweights, or women's wrestling. Not doing
Cruiserweights, how
so
about
is
that?
cowardice, pure and simple. Have weaponry-based matches as a very occasional treat if you must, but by and large, scrap the hardcore part of the business entirely if that's the business you're in. Focus on a pure style of wrestling. Be simple and clear with your storylines. I mean, that's the PG model, isn't it? Now, I know that sounds mad and scary and a huge risk, but the audience have proven themselves ready, willing, and able to invest in old school wrestling. Look at NXT. PG and proud
Also,
of it. It features wrestlers hurting each other, power bombs on the ring apron, but in terms of big, showy violence,
Get out of that
it has a ladder match, once every 18 months. That's what makes it special. The rest of the time, it's people fighting in realistic wrestling matches for realistic reasons, and that's it. It's a secret third way between barbed wire stupid and El Torito stupid. What makes it interesting is the storylines, the wrestlers, and the pure athleticism of it, not faux vanilla versions of hardcore matches from yesteryear. Now, people will say, well, NXT is niche television. Raw and SmackDown play to more casual fans, so it has to be more entertaining. And there aren't enough quotation marks in the world to put around that word entertaining. You can't have mass market old school wrestling shows these days, to which I respond, oh, because the current model WWE have got is doing gangbusters, is it? Case in point number 2. For 3 months straight, John Cena and Kevin Owens put on back-to-back Match of the Year candidates, which everyone loved, and they never left the ring once. People still shouted, holy shit, and this is awesome. The market is there. This is what the fans should think of when they think of PG wrestling. Not as something being lost, but an audience gained for these phenomenal athletes. Returning to TV-14 would be dreadful. First, from a business perspective, if you were a promotion, why would you want to sell a ticket to just mum or dad, probably just dad, when you can sell tickets to the whole family? That just makes good financial sense. And second, TV-14 is not as good as you remember it. Compare TV-14 to a raging party from your teenage years. You look back on that time with fondness because all the hormones that were flying around, the crude impulses, the anarchic unpredictability, you look back on that and there's this irrepressible sense of freedom about it. The problem is that's a trap. Everything in the past is better simply because you were young when it happened and everyone wants to be young again. I do. True. I'm young. I mean, I'm only 28 and I wank and weep myself to sleep every night at the idea of just being 23 again. Point is, as who you are now, if you went back to one of those parties, you would see that everyone is shrieking at a repulsive volume, the music is terrible, 2 guys are puking on someone's bum, there's really awkward fingering happening in the corner, and it smells like what happens when sweat dies. Of course, this analogy assumes that you're not currently a teenager watching this video. If you are, read a book and be nicer to your parents. Fact is, call me a boring asshole, but I don't want to see porn stars on Raw. I don't want to see giant Samoan men beating up lesbians in their underwear. I don't want puking or crude Asian stereotypes and constant deathmatch bloodletting. I want good PG, simple, well-crafted wrestling. Because compared to TV-14, it's a lot less childish. That's what I think on this topic. Do you agree? Tell me about it in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and you can even follow me on Twitter here. I'm Adam from WhatCulture.com, and that was the Pipebomb.
Slightly disagree again, Mr. Adam, and I'm going to tell you why. One of your biggest things was that TV-14 you remember is better just because you were younger then. That's not necessarily true. The best stuff about the Attitude Era wasn't the blood, it wasn't the super sexy angles or whatever. The thing that got me the most excited about the Attitude Era was the build-up to SummerSlam 98. The Highway to Hell SummerSlam. That build-up, it didn't necessarily have a whole bunch of blood. Matter of fact, the most blood I remember in that build-up between Austin and Stone Cold was fucking fake blood when Kane drowned Austin in a fucking bloodbath in the middle of the ring for their first blood match. That was a build-up of something. It wasn't just Austin and Kane in his first blood match just the fuck because. It was Austin had this tremendous fucking run. He was on his way to Super Cena status, and it was like, okay, but here's Kane. Kane is this fucking monster who has literally destroyed everybody. Even in losses, Kane has destroyed fucking everybody. It was a story that was built up, and when the blood happened, it happened for a reason. It wasn't just blood for the sake of fucking blood. Blood can be useful in professional wrestling, but there has to be parameters there. Blood has to be used in, first of all, in cases where the guys are getting paid properly, not just on some schmuck-ass indie show where you get a hot dog and a handshake and possibly $5 for a box of fucking Band-Aids. It has to be fucking done in an area where the guys are getting paid properly. It has to be done in a circumstance where there's medical personnel on hand to prevent and circumvent any issues that could arise. And it has to be done at the end of or on the near the climax to a blood feud. If it's done right, it can be done well. One of the misconceptions about the Attitude Era, and I came across this, and I might talk about this a little bit more when I go to my top 20 wrestlers of all time, which was requested. But I came across this when I was training for wrestling. Indie wrestler who had been around forever, and just because you've been around forever doesn't mean shit. It just means you've been around forever. He went around and asked who your favorite wrestler was. And he asked me who my favorite wrestler was, and I said Mick Foley. And he said, "Oh, you're just into stunts." Now, because I didn't want to start a thing, I didn't cut his ignorant ass off and say, "The fuck are you talking about? Have you never seen a good Mick Foley match that doesn't have any doesn't necessarily have anything to do with blood or stunts or anything like that? What the fuck are you talking?" And pro wrestlers in general could be classified as glorified stuntmen. That was a misconception about Mick Foley a lot of the time, is that, oh, he's just a glorified stuntman, he just blows himself up, blah, 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 just takes hits, blah, blah, blah. No, there were reasons. The stories behind what Mick Foley did in his greatest matches, there were reasons behind it. There was a reason why Foley took a couple of the planned couple of chair shots that turned into far too many at the Royal Rumble. There was a story he was telling, and a reason why he took the punishment why he took. If you read his first book, which I have right here, Have a Nice Day, Tell Blood and Sweat Sock, behind his amazing match with Vader, this amazingly brutal match with Vader. There was a story he was fucking telling. That's the whole point, right? It's supposed to be storytelling. There were stories that he was telling in his own way, in a manner that he knew he could take at the time that he was taking the risks and the bumps that he was taking, the same way anybody else who steps in any other fucking ring does. To discount the Attitude Era as just the blood and guts era, that their whole thing was just blood and guts, a shot, that might have been what got people in the door, but what kept them there was good storytelling. What kept them there was talented guys. What kept them there were good matches. Actual blood and guts stuff was still fucking fringe in the Attitude Era. The actual blood and guts stuff, like the super Japanese stuff with the C4 explosives and all that stuff, and a lot of the stuff that ECW was doing, and later CZW, that was still and still is super fucking fringe. So to dismiss the TV-14 era and the Attitude Era as just trash is an oversight. To say that one is better than the other is an oversight, no matter which side of the fence that you're on, because some of the greatest moments in professional wrestling history happened during what you would call PG era. The golden era of WWF was a pretty PG era. You know, nobody cursed, the hardest thing you heard was hell or maybe damn every once in a while, but the matches, but the moments were what made it better. And one of the things that has been lacking in the current era, from what I've seen of it, because I don't really watch it all that much, but has been talked about, and he talked about it, 3 fucking hours. You got 3 hours to fill now, WWE, and from what I've seen, the couple of times that I've seen a Raw or a SmackDown back when I was watching, or when Kyle drags me to fucking watch it, is we're filling it with fucking recaps and replays and shitty backstage segments and yada, yada, yada. You know what made me want to watch 2 hours of Raw and near the end be like, I can't believe they're ending it right now, I want to see more, was A, the fact that was the cutoff. It was 1 hour, okay, now it's 2 hours, that was the cutoff, And they planned it like that. It wasn't a shit ton of replays and reactions and stuff. Everybody got over. It doesn't matter whether you're shooting for the adult crowd or the kids crowd. If you have a product where you try to get as many people over as absolutely possible, where the only people who don't get over are the people who fucking can't get over, no matter what you do with them, then you have something. You have something. And you fucking have something. It doesn't matter if it's TV PG, G, MA, TV fucking 7, it doesn't matter. If you have a good product with a good core there, where you're not, because in wrestling you really can't get past fucking egos. But if you get past egos as much as possible, and what gets past egos as much as possible in the golden era and in the attitude era was fucking competition. You know what I mean? You didn't necessarily have time to hold a whole bunch of fucking people down when you had somebody nipping at your heels who was publicly trying to end everybody's career on the other side of the fucking fence. But there's no competition for WWE. That's been the biggest problem since 2002. There's because TNA almost seemed like they wanted to be competition when they first started, but so I'll give it 2003, and they kind of wanted to be, so I'll give it, 2002, still, because they still weren't competition, TNA, NWA, they still weren't competition, but they wanted to be them and ROH both kind of jockeyed to almost get to that position, but they still never made it. Because there's not been competition for WWE since 2001, nothing's fucking changed. I mean, things have changed, but they've always kind of had this overlay of, we're the top guys. We can give you some entertaining shit if it happens to be entertaining, but that's not necessarily our concern. Our concern is just to pump out fucking product and to keep it becomes a factory. It just keeps fucking pumping out fucking product. 3-hour Raws, don't do that. Because don't do that unless you're actually going to display all your fucking talent. And the last time I saw, they didn't display all their fucking talent. And not in the best way possible to get as many people over. So what's the point other than to just hog up airtime and get fucking sponsors money? And that's been the other thing, is when WWE went public, everything changed when they went public and went on the stock exchange. Everything fucking changed. How they did business changed, because now they weren't doing business for the sake of pro wrestling or for the sake of the wrestling business or WWE's business. They did business for the stock market. And what does the stock market hate more than anything else? Change. The stock market fucking hates change. Why has John Cena been the top guy, his boring, bland ass, for all these fucking years? Because the stock market hates change. Shareholders hate change. No matter whether it's positive or not, they fucking hate change until it's been changed for a long period of time and it's no longer change and now it's the norm again. They fucking hate change. That's why they've been doing it that way. WWE probably at this point can give fuck number one about TV ratings, because A, they have the network, and 2, they're concerned about shareholders and their stock market price. Fuck ratings. They don't give a fuck about ratings at this point. They give a fuck about making money, and making money on TV is almost a secondary thing probably at this point. Bottom line, when I say TV-14 is better than TV PG, I've made that argument before. I've said, they need to kill the PG thing, but you know what? On closer examination, it's not really one versus the other. That's the problem. TV PG came in around the same time all these other problems were happening. 2008-ish, 7, 8-ish, that's when the product got boring just because the product got fucking boring because they decided it was going to be boring and bland and shit. Like, I fell asleep on many a fucking SmackDown sitting here watching it when a couple years earlier I would be dead fucking tired but staying up the entire 2 hours to watch SmackDown because it was so goddamn entertaining. So, TV PG gets a lot of shit, but it's really because it came in at the wrong time. When it was just this huge fucking perfect storm of shit that happened. But in all actuality, if you're being objective about it, neither one is better or worse than the other. They both had their highs, they both had their lows, they both had their hits and their misses. It's the core of the product. What made the Attitude Era so good was the same thing that made the Golden Era so good, was that they focused on as many people as possible and got as many people as possible over. There was a strong upper card and mid card that held up and supported that fucking upper card in both those areas. And you can see low card guys climb the ranks too. There was upward trajectory in both those eras. And now, particularly when they're bringing back old dudes and keeping old dudes around for fucking ever because athletes are going a lot longer now than they used to, you don't see that trajectory anymore. You see low card guys get moved up to mid card guys sometimes, but then, or low card guys or mid card guys go up to upper card guys and then jerk right back down to curtain jerker status after championship runs that don't mean anything anymore. Like that's a problem. That's a big problem. They're not going back to the fucking core of what could make a good wrestling show. That's the fucking problem. Agree with me? Disagree with me? Comment down there in the comments section. Like, share, subscribe. Go to youtube.com/surreal469. Click the little blue button that says support over on the right-hand side. That's this side. You'll be supporting, and folks, that ain't bad. Boom! Boom. Boom.
Suplex City, Suplex City, bitch. Suplex City, Suplex City, bitch. Suplex City, Suplex City, bitch.